Italian wine has a great little secret. Some bottles for $20 or $25 can taste like they should cost twice as much. The trick is not finding a cheap imitation of Barolo, Brunello di Montalcino, or another famous wine. It is knowing which grapes, regions, and producers still offer serious quality before the price catches up. So here are 7 affordable Italian wines that taste far more expensive than they are. 1 is a Sicilian red with enough richness to impress lovers of bigger wines. 1 is a white many people still underestimate. And number 1 gives you a way into the world of barbaresco without paying barbaresco prices. Let's start in Sicily.
Number 7. Cusumano Nero d'Avola. Sicilia, DOC.
If you want to find value in Italian wine, Sicily is a very good place to start, and Nero d'Avola may be one of the easiest Sicilian grapes to fall in love with. Cusumano makes a version that can often be found for around $18. That does not sound like a special occasion bottle. Then you pour it into the glass and enjoy the rich color. The dark cherry notes are very prominent in this Sicilian wine. Dark cherry, blackberry, plum, and spice notes are present. Pepper, dried herbs. Maybe something slightly earthy underneath it all. There is plenty of fruit, but it does not feel like fruit juice with alcohol added. That is important, because a lot of inexpensive red wine has one move. Big fruit, maybe some vanilla, maybe a lot of oak flavor, and then nothing. This has more shape. You get richness, but you also get freshness. You get ripe fruit, but there is a savory side to it. It feels warm and generous without becoming heavy. And if you usually drink Cabernet Sauvignon, Malbec, or Merlot, this may be the easiest wine in the entire video to try first. You are still getting the dark fruit and body you probably enjoy, but now there is a Sicilian accent to it, and you do not need to analyze it for 20 minutes. Open it with burgers, grilled sausages, pizza, roasted vegetables, or a big plate of pasta with tomato sauce. It just works. Delicious. At roughly $18, this is exactly the kind of bottle that can make you wonder why you keep buying the same red wine every week.
Number 6. Barbera d'Asti, DOCG.
Piedmont can be dangerous for your bank account. You start with 1 bottle of Barolo. Then you discover barbaresco. Then somebody starts talking about vineyards, and suddenly a bottle costing $20 seems like something from another lifetime. So before any of that happens, learn the word Barbera, because Barbera is one of the great value moves in Piedmont, and Vietti is exactly the kind of producer you want making it. Vietti is famous for serious Piedmont wine. Its top bottles can cost many times more than this one, but Barbera d'Asti Vigne can often sit somewhere around $20. And it does something very different from Nebbiolo. Nebbiolo can be tannic, demanding, sometimes almost aggressive when it is young. Barbera is much friendlier. It gives you loads of acidity, plenty of fruit, and relatively soft tannins. In other words, you can open it tonight. No cellar, no waiting, no ceremony, and definitely no need to stare thoughtfully into the glass before taking a sip. You may get cherry, blackberry, plum, spice, and this juicy freshness that makes the wine incredibly easy to drink with food. That freshness is the magic. Some inexpensive reds feel tiring halfway through the second glass. Barbera makes you want another bite of food, and then another sip. Pizza? Perfect. Tomato pasta? Absolutely. Salumi? Even better. Roast chicken? Pork? Mushrooms? Keep going. This is one of those wines that reminds you why Italians built so much of their wine culture around the table. And there is something satisfying about buying a bottle from a producer known for much more expensive wines and paying around $20. You feel like you found a side entrance. But the next wine may be an even better trick, because if you keep buying the same 3 white grapes over and over again, this is where things get interesting.
Number 5. feudi di San Gregorio Falanghina del Sagno d'Ossi. This wine is made in Campania, in southern Italy, and you can often find it for somewhere around $20 to $22. The first thing I like about Falanghina is that it actually tastes like something. That sounds ridiculous, but think about how many cheap white wines are basically designed to be cold, harmless, and forgotten. You drink them because they are refreshing. Then, 10 minutes later, you could not describe a single flavor. Falanghina is different. You can get lemon, green apple, pear, white flowers, herbs, and sometimes a slightly salty mineral edge that makes you want seafood immediately. There is acidity, but there is also texture. It feels fresh without feeling thin. And here is a very simple test for inexpensive white wine. Let it warm up a little. A boring white wine often gets worse the moment it stops being ice cold. Good wine starts showing you more. Falanghina can do exactly that. Suddenly, the flowers are easier to smell, the fruit becomes clearer, and that slightly savory side starts coming through. Now your $20 bottle is behaving like something much more serious. Drink it with clams, shrimp, grilled fish, calamari, fresh cheese, vegetables, seafood pasta, or just pour a glass before dinner. There is another advantage. Bring Chardonnay to someone's house and nobody asks a question. Bring Falanghina and somebody almost certainly will. What is that? Now the bottle has already done something interesting before anyone even drinks it. And if this one surprises you, number 4 goes in completely the opposite direction. This is the bottle for people who hear expensive wine and immediately think dark, smooth, rich, and luxurious. Number 4. Allegrini Palazzo della Torre. If I wanted to fool somebody into thinking I had spent more money than I actually did, this would be very high on my list. Allegrini Palazzo della Torre comes from Veneto, and Veneto is also the home of Amarone. That matters because Amarone is one of those wines that practically announces richness before you even open the bottle. Big fruit, concentration, power, and often a pretty serious price. Palazzo della Torre is not Amarone, and I would never pretend that it is. But they are relatives. The wine uses grapes including Corvina and Corvinone, and part of the production involves partially dried grapes. That means more concentration, more texture, and more richness. And you notice it almost immediately. Dark cherry, plum, spice, maybe coffee, maybe chocolate, smooth tannins, a generous mouthfeel, and a finish that hangs around longer than you expect at this price. This is the bottle where tastes expensive becomes very easy to understand. Pour it blind for a group of wine drinkers and tell them it costs $40. I doubt many people would challenge you, but it can often be found somewhere around $22 to $25. That is the fun. And unlike some rich, inexpensive reds, it does not completely exhaust your palate. There is enough freshness behind the fruit to keep everything moving. Give it grilled beef, braised meat, lamb, mushroom pasta, risotto, or aged cheese. This may also be the safest dinner party bottle in the video. Someone who loves rich reds will probably be happy. But number 3 is different. It may not impress you immediately with size. It does something smarter. It waits until food arrives. Number 3. Castello di Monsanto Chianti Classico. DOCG. There is a moment when Sangiovese suddenly makes sense. And for a lot of people, it happens at the table. Castello di Monsanto Chianti Classico is exactly that kind of wine. It can often be found somewhere in the 20s, but it drinks with far more seriousness than the price suggests. This is classic Tuscany. Think sour cherry, red berries, dried herbs, earth, a little tobacco, maybe some violet, all held together by bright acidity and firm but controlled tannins. It is not trying to impress you with huge fruit or a super soft texture. It wins you over because everything feels balanced. Drink it on its own, and it can seem almost restrained. Then the food arrives. Pizza, pasta with tomato sauce, roast pork, grilled meat, pecorino. Suddenly the acidity makes sense. The fruit feels brighter, and the savory side of the wine starts connecting with the plate. That is what makes this bottle feel more expensive. It has detail. It changes in the glass. Nothing feels exaggerated, and nothing feels cheap. You just keep going back for another sip. And that is exactly why Castello di Monsanto has such a strong reputation among people who love Chianti Classico, but still care about value. It gives you real Tuscan character without forcing you into luxury wine prices. For somewhere in the 20s, that is a lot of wine. Number 2. Pieropan Soave Classico, DOC. Soave has spent years paying for the sins of bad Soave. For a long time, huge amounts of simple, inexpensive wine were exported under the name, so a lot of drinkers learned one lesson. Soave equals cheap white wine. That lesson is wrong. Good Soave Classico can be fantastic, and Pieropan is one of the reasons why. The main grape is Garganega, and this wine can often be found somewhere around $23 to $25. It gives you far more detail than that price suggests. Lemon, pear, white peach, flowers, almond, a mineral edge. The texture can feel almost creamy for a moment. Then the acidity comes through and cleans everything up. And that little bitter almond note near the finish gives the wine real personality. This is where it starts behaving like a more expensive bottle. Leave it in the glass for a few minutes. Come back. The aroma opens. The fruit changes. You notice something you missed before. That is exactly what makes a wine interesting, and it is incredibly useful with food. Seafood, sushi, roast chicken, vegetable risotto, grilled fish, creamy pasta, fresh cheese. And if Pieropan is the bottle people underestimate because of the name Soave, number 1 is the bottle people underestimate because they are staring at the more famous bottle sitting next to it. Number 1. Produttori del barbaresco langhe, Nebbiolo, DOC. This is where Italian wine gets dangerous. Nebbiolo gives us barolo. Nebbiolo gives us barbaresco. It also gives wine lovers a very efficient way of discovering how quickly a hobby can become financially irresponsible. But you do not have to start with barolo, and you probably should not. Produttori del barbaresco langhe Nebbiolo is one of the smartest ways in. Produttori del barbaresco is a highly respected cooperative in Piedmont. They are famous for barbaresco, and their langhe Nebbiolo can often be found for around $27 to $30. Now here's the part that makes this bottle so interesting. The grapes come from the barbaresco area, so you are drinking Nebbiolo connected directly to one of Italy's great wine territories, made by a producer famous for that territory. But you are not paying the price of a serious bottle of barbaresco. No, this is not secretly barbaresco for $30. That would be a great story. It would also be nonsense. This is Langhe Nebbiolo. It is built to be more approachable earlier, and that is exactly why it works so well as an introduction. Because Nebbiolo is one of those grapes that does not make sense until you experience the contradiction. Look at it. The color can be surprisingly pale, almost delicate. Then smell it. Cherry, roses, dried flowers, herbs, white pepper, anise, something earthy. It can smell beautiful, almost graceful. Then take a sip. There are the tannins. Suddenly, the delicate-looking wine has teeth. That is Nebbiolo. Light in color, perfumed, structured, elegant, and aggressive at exactly the same time. And once that combination clicks for you, you understand why people become obsessed with this grape. Give the bottle some air. Pour a glass and leave it alone for a few minutes. Come back, smell it again. You may notice something completely different. Then put food next to it. Mushroom pasta, roast chicken, pork, steak, risotto, anything with truffles. This is not necessarily the easiest wine in the video. Palazzo della Torre is easier. Cusumano is easier. Falanghina is probably easier. But this is the one that makes me feel like I am getting access to something I should have paid more for. And that is why it takes the top spot. For around $30, you are not simply buying a nice bottle of red wine. You are getting an introduction to one of the great grapes of Italy. And if you love it, there is bad news. The next bottle will probably be barbaresco, then barolo. Then somebody will mention a single vineyard, and from that point forward, I cannot help you. Here is the thing I would remember from this entire video. Do not look for a cheap copy of an expensive wine. That is usually the wrong game. Look one step sideways. Everybody wants barolo? Look at langhe Nebbiolo. Prestigious Piedmont reds getting expensive? Look at Barbera. People keep buying the same international white grapes? Try Falanghina or Soave Classico. Everybody is chasing luxury Tuscany? Find a serious Chianti Classico from a great producer. So now I want yours. What is the cheapest Italian wine you have ever bought that tasted way more expensive than it had any right to? Put the bottle and what you paid for it in the comments. And if you like finding great wine without wasting money, subscribe, because Italy has plenty more bottles worth discovering.